live? I think we are live. So, we're back to Canadian politics. This morning, Kash Patel got confirmed. Very happy about that. He put out his first public statement. And I saw this from Pierre Poilievre's official page. So I subscribed to him. Bells on, of course. 18-minute video, and apparently it's pretty interesting. It's called Fix the Broken Budget. Let's see what Sir Pierre has to talk about.
Beautiful birds who are in the rafters over there. I'm hoping you're catching that audio. I want to thank this wonderful food bank, Vishal, and his entire team of volunteers for the incredible work they are doing to feed the hungry. I understand, Vishal, that Sidam Food Bank had 10,000 people it was served.
Yeah, I heard your food banks are getting overrun because, the economics are gripping you guys. So inflation, increased energy costs, everything, less money left at the end of the day, and it's just constricting what you guys can do. So food banks are getting slam packed.
Serving in 2020, and that number has gone up to 70,000. Incredible.
70,000.
2020 was the year when Mark Carney became economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. How's it been going? Apparently, Mr. Trudeau's been following his advice, but it goes the other way.
Yo, I heard Trudeau is also getting investigated for something. Like, I'm not sure. I saw it somewhere, but he's being investigated for some suspicious payments. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
Way too. Yesterday, Carbon Tax Carney,
Carnival Carney, the guy who says one thing and says a different thing the same day in another language.
He was going to repeat the exact same promise that Justin Trudeau made in 2015 on budgets. Get this. In 2015, Justin Trudeau said, and I quote, yesterday, Carbon Tax Carney announced that he was going to repeat the exact same promise that Justin Trudeau made in 2015 on budget.
Again, like I was saying the other day, I think Pierre's calling it out too. These politicians, they just say one thing, and everything they say is just to please you guys, make it sound good to your ears. From your ears, it goes down to your heart and your brain. You're like, ooh, that felt kind of nice. But then in reality, their actions are the complete opposite of what they're telling you.
Yes. Get this. In 2015, Justin Trudeau said, and I quote, he will run 3 small deficits, tiny deficits.
The tiny deficits, and the deficits will fix itself. The budget always balances itself out. It's like water, you know? When you put it in here, maybe sometimes it's like this, but always it balances out, right? That's what Justin Trudeau thinks. That's how budgets work.
Remember that? And that would fund the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history to help the middle class and grow the economy. What has been the result? Well, those 3 deficits turned into 9 deficits. $25 billion of new debt turned into $700 billion of new debt. The debt...
I mean, I could have guessed this, He says he's going to do one thing, does the complete opposite. And I think those investigations might just lead to, I was going to say Pierre, to Justin and his family maybe getting some kickbacks.
In fact, double.
I'm just saying, you never know.
Time. And the middle class, 80% of them are paying more income taxes. None of them can afford a home. And we've had...
And we talked about this too, these are fucking house prices. Like, not only is inflation up and you guys have less discretionary spending at the end of the month, but your housing prices have gotten up. So now you can't afford your house, you can't afford your car, and you can barely afford food, plus the other extra things, like life's not just about you gotta work to pay your bills, right? Of course you want to have some extra money at the end. Maybe you want to take your family out, maybe you want to go eat some nice dinner, maybe you want to go to a movie. Who knows? But you should have money at the end of the month to spend on some fun stuff too. And I'm not talking about of course there's people that are not good with spending money, right? They overspend. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the people who obviously have a budget. They're responsible people, but just life gets more expensive and their pay doesn't get higher, so it just catches up eventually.
Worst economic growth in the G7. That is the result of the promise that Trudeau made 10 years ago.
Yeah, I solely put that on Trudeau. Solely.
And now Mark Carney is promising three small...
I used to have family back in the day when they used to be from Canada. I'm talking about when I was younger, maybe like 10. And I just remember clearly when they would come over, me and my family, brothers, sisters, would be like, wow, like, Canada, huh? Must be some rich, fancy place. Like, always traveling. I don't know, it just seemed like a place of promise.
Deficits, which he says will somehow cause economic growth and help the middle class. My friends, this is deja vu all over again. Carney has the same advisors, the same MPs, the same ministers, and making the same liberal promises.
Yeah, that's what I never got to. Literally, when I hear of Mark Carney, I just think of a Trudeau extension. It's literally like how Kamala was here. It was Joe Biden, and then Kamala was the vice president, and then Obama. Joe Biden got kicked out and replaced by Mark Carney, which is Kamala Harris. Except for in your case, it's Justin Trudeau doing this, and not Carney. Maybe even Carney, actually. I don't know. You guys tell me.
Trudeau made a decade ago, but he expects Canadians to be duped for a fourth time. Mr. Carney has been Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years. And the only difference between Carney and Trudeau is that Carney is now making a promise to cook the books. He's planning to cook the books with a sneaky accounting trick to take billions of dollars of new Liberal spending off the budget records altogether.
Yeah, like stuff like that is just so sneaky. So sneaky. Imagine if you didn't have Pierre there to call all this out. How would you even know?
To be clear, this is not simply about differentiating between investments and spending. We already have that. It's called accrual accounting. Anybody who's taken a high school course in accounting knows that that means that capital expenditures are amortized over the life of the asset they purchase. That exists in the federal budgeting already. What Mr. Carney is talking about is taking tens of billions of dollars of new spending off the books, hiding it from Canadians, so that he can artificially lower the debt.
Yeah, like, there's no point in that. Obviously, it's there. He just wants to do that so he can look like they did a better job, so he'll get the nomination and the election win. I don't see any other reason why you would do that. Plus, like, if Pierre wasn't there, he would never be doing that. It's just because there's a spotlight on him now.
Deficits that people see reported, but that doesn't mean that Canadians won't have to pay the price. In fact, every single dollar the government spends is paid for by Canadian taxpayers, either through taxes today or inflation and debt tomorrow. Mr. Carney's promise will be that the operating budget will somehow balance while limitlessly spending inflationary dollars on...
Like Trudeau said, the balance budgets itself, so why even worry, right?
Pork barrel spending,
it's fine.
Pet projects, and liberal waste in order to reverse disastrous electoral consequences that the Liberals now face. Carbon tax Carney cannot change the fact...
And I gotta say, that name of carbon tax Carney, I don't know if Pierre made that up, but that's one of my favorite political nicknames given to anybody. It just sticks so well.
Will come out of the pockets of the Canadian people. There's no magic to this. Every dollar government spends comes out of Canadians' pockets. Mr. Carney has not identified a single program from Justin Trudeau that he would cancel. On top of that,
he wants to
has announced billions, if not tens of billions of dollars of additional spending.
Could have guessed
he
that.
would tack on top of the current Liberal government's spending. My friends, you cannot get a change from the Liberal government by electing a Liberal government.
Yeah, and the same thing is happening in Germany, kind of. It's a little different, but they have different coalitions there, and their version of far right, the AFD, has 20% of the votes, so they'll get second place. And then the Christian something has 30%. So they have to come together and make groups. And the remaining groups, besides the far right, as they claim, AFD, they've already been in a coalition together, and it went bad, and they've been losing support, right? So, on one hand, people are freaking out because they don't want a right-wing government, but then they're like, well, I mean, if you team together the other three, you're pretty much getting the same government, liberal government. Nothing's gonna get done. It's just the status quo.
A fourth liberal term in office will be just like the previous three. It'll mean higher taxes, higher housing costs, more food bank lineups, raging crime in our streets. Only common sense.
Yeah, and I heard you guys have a lot of car theft too. Car theft is your thing. I don't know why. I thought that would be an American thing. Car theft?
Conservatives will fix the budget for real. We will cut bureaucracy, consultants, corporate welfare, foreign aid, and other wasted money. We will also bring in a new dollar-for-dollar law that runs the finances of the country like small businesses, seniors, and single moms run their budgets. Very simple. A new dollar of spending would have to be matched with a dollar of savings. You want to spend more over here, you have to spend less.
See, that's just common sense, like he says. Why would the government run their budget differently than how they expect you to run your budget? You know, it's like saying you don't have enough money for something, and then they're like, yeah, just add an exorbitant amount of debt onto your life, and it'll just balance itself out in the future. When in reality, you know that that's not true. If you do that, you're going to have to work so hard just to balance it.
We're there, and that will be passed into a law, the dollar-for-dollar law. We will bring down deficits.
People are just spam commenting Doge in his
income taxes
comments.
And inflation. We will get rid of the carbon tax. We will lower income taxes.
Someone just said send the Indians back to India now.
We will take the GST off new homes to save up to
How many dead people are still getting CPP and old age pension? That's like here. That's like the scam here.
50 grand on the purchase of a house so that our young people can afford a place to live like they could before the Carney-Trudeau Liberals doubled housing costs. We will pass a big, beautiful, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, savings, home building, and making stuff in Canada. The purpose will be to bring home the $500 billion of investment that the Carney-Trudeau Liberals have driven out of our country to the United States of America. I want
That's true. I can confirm. There have been people in the comments saying like, oh, jobs are going to America. They're like pushing companies put their headquarters in America. Canadian companies.
Money in our country for our people. That's what it means to bring it home. We're going to bring it home to Canada. Our country. We're going to put Canada first, Canada always, Canada forever. Thank you.
Let's get some questions. It's going to get heated, maybe.
Hello, Mr. Poilievre, Noah Jarvis to North. In response to the imposition of American tariffs by President Donald Trump, Canadians have taken to booing the American national anthem at sporting events.
Oh, this is going to be, I'm going to hear what he's going to say.
Four Nations face-off event, which you attended. Some argue that the booing is justified, while others argue that it is disrespectful.
Who cares? Honestly, like, this is such a dumb question. It's a national anthem. It's at a sport. You're going to boo each other. Like, if a Canadian was booing the national anthem, I'm not going to get emotional and be like, oh, you know, who cares? It's not their country.
Future sporting events, should Canadians boo the American anthem or refrain from doing so?
I would focus on cheering on Canadians. I want Canadians to win. I enjoyed the game. Unfortunately,
Sly dog, that was a sneaky answer right there. Canada needs Doge.
Fortunately, did not enjoy the outcome.
Yeah, you guys need Doge, but then there was this lady that was getting mad. She's like, "We hate Elon here. We don't want Elon." So
when I sat down with my little boy Cruz, it was his first in-person hockey game, and my wife Anna was there. My retirement plan is for little Cruz to become an agent.
Stanley, I heard there's some crazy stuff going on in Canada right now where the government's getting exposed for like spending money on foreign places, and then also you guys have a version of Social Security, and I heard dead people are getting Social Security.
Shell hockey player, so we wanted to get him started early on that. I would just encourage everyone to remember that our disagreement is not with the American people; it's with the American president's unjustified threats of tariffs. And let's focus on building our own country up.
That's a great answer.
You know, Mark Carney took his headquarters out of Canada. The media has been covering this up. The first thing he did after Trump won re-election was to take his headquarters, his corporate headquarters, and send it to New York.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to pay all the taxes that he and Mr. Trudeau have been imposing on business here in Canada.
One rule for
I will
you guys,
do the
and then
exact opposite of Carney.
I will bring rule for the leaders, and then one rule for you.
Bring the jobs home to this country and put our country first. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Y Media.
Hey, this is Shubi from Y Media. Canadians are looking for a prime minister to show them leadership. So how is Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's plan and Liberal leader different to the Liberal leader candidate Mark Carney's plan? How's it different?
Oui, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Yeah, not you. I meant there was people abusing the system. Like, say someone had died, and then they're still claiming that they're alive, getting the CCP.
So here's the difference.
It's a funny name though, CCP, like China.
Mark Carney, who has been Justin Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years, would bring in tens of billions of dollars of new spending. He would bring in a massive post-election carbon tax on Canadian.
That's what happened here with Kamala and stuff. They just went crazy on the spending.
Industry that
Especially
will drive
Ukraine.
Jobs to the south of the border. He would continue with the policies that have doubled housing costs, doubled food bank use over the last 9 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, CCP, what?
Electing a fourth Liberal...
Hey, CCP Trudeau, though, you know? It might as well be the CCP.
Government in a row will not change what the previous three
Canada
Liberal governments did.
Plan.
You need a new, common-sense, conservative government.
Do you guys get good money from the pension plan, or is it low for the cost of living now?
That will pass a massive bring-it-home tax cut that will, to incentivize bringing back the $500 billion of investment Liberals drove to the United States so that Canadians can build factories, pipelines, mines, LNG plants, technology,
LNG.
and countless other assets.
Come on, North America, let's be rich. Canada, sell your LNG, drill baby drill, let's go.
That generate income for our people on this side of the border. We will go from having the worst economic...
You guys are going to get rich by feeding the EU soon. And as long as you guys can update your infrastructure.
Growth in the G7 under Trudeau.
Somebody was saying if you wanted to switch from supplying the US to just supplying EU, it would take a little bit of time to shift, I guess.
Last 5 years to having the best economic growth in the G7. We will repeal the unconstitutional no new pipelines law, C-69.
Yeah, in my opinion, if you guys just get the green stuff out of there and the foreign spending and the bureaucracy, I don't see why you guys can't be the fastest growing, especially considering how Europe's doing right now.
So that we can take back control of our energy and our resources. We can ship Canadian energy to Canadian workers, to Canadian businesses in this country.
Another thing, this was weird. There was like a Canadian, he had a bunch of cows, and since he passed the quota number he had that the government gives him, he had to pour out a shit ton of his milk. That's such a waste.
Call Canada. Liberals will drive jobs and investment away. Conservatives will put Canada first.
Up my volume? Can you hear me? Let's go. Woo!
Mr. Carney est le conseiller économique
de Justin
Trudeau depuis 5 ans. Les résultats, c'est doubler le coût de logement, doubler la dette nationale, doubler les lignes d'attente chez des banques alimentaires. Inflation et Trudeau.
505?
Les conservateurs, par contre, c'est les impôts. C'est soit de gaz liquide, impôts et l'impôt pour une partie de gros bon sens.
Thanks for your feedback, Stanley. I'm kind of new at this still, so the process is kind of shitty.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Nous allons couper le gas. On gaspille l'argent. Des grands bons, je deviens. Le gaspillage, poche des waste and liberal over 100%. Government spending by 80%. We have to cut waste and mismanagement in this country.
just
After
like
10 years of
America.
the
It's
Carney-Trudeau
crazy.
Liberals,
You guys are on the
they've
same
increased
timeline.
government spending by 80%. They've increased the debt by over 100%. And much of it has gone to waste. For example,
We have a ass debt here. It's at 36 trillion. What's Canada's debt? National debt.
Almost nobody watches CBC television. They have among the worst ratings of any network, and yet Trudeau gives them billions more. We're going to cut wasteful spending, not just there, but across the government to bring down inflation, deficits, and taxes. That's common sense. Now let's bring it home.
Thank you. Next question. News.
Good morning, Mr. Poilievre. David Menzies with Rebel News. Mr. Poilievre, you recently said that any foreign nationals who are convicted of anti-Semitic crimes in Canada should be deported. But that is a very high bar. There have been very few arrests and very few prosecutions.
I have a theory, real quick, before this keeps going. Just my opinion. I have a theory that Justin Trudeau's been to Epstein's Island.
Over the past 16 months. Indeed, according to police and prosecutors, the anti-Semitic encampments at universities were not crimes. Shouting for a new intifada and promoting genocide are not considered criminal.
Were those groups paid, though, by the government?
Would you be open to reviving Stephen Harper's ban on the glorification of terrorism?
Thank you. We're going to be releasing our election platform once the writ is dropped and the election is called. So you'll have to wait until then for those sorts of final decisions and commitments. But what I've made clear is that we have to reverse
much better 1.7 trillion
that has been unleashed in this country over the last 10 years.
Not too bad. You guys have so much oil that I feel like 1.7 trillion will get engulfed.
Radical woke agenda that Justin Trudeau instituted and that Mark Carney has said explicitly he wants to continue has divided our people. He's broken people up into different ethnic, religious, cultural...
Yeah, that's another thing too. It seems like there's been a lot of like forced divide and conquer methods. Like some of these issues that even in America, like the whole Hamas and Palestine, like there's people that genuinely care, but then there's also people that obviously don't care and they're just protesting.
Groups and turn them against each other. Liberals have deliberately divided community against community for electoral gain.
Yeah. All I see is 1.3.
And they have
1.7 or 1.3. It's better than 36 trillion.
Put in place an ideology that obsesses about every single possible ethnocultural division. And what is the result? A 251% increase in violent hate crime under this last decade of the Trudeau-Carney Liberals.
Yeah, again, it sounds just like America. Biden would only take easy answers from like the liberal news stations, and then Trump would just take everything, and it would be a heated fight.
So I will end that radical woke ideology. I will treat every single Canadian equally. We will cut off the funds that have gone to anti-Semitic groups and to other hate mongers. We will pass tough new laws that punish people who vandalize or attack places of worship. We will deport foreign nationals who are in this country that engage in violence or law-breaking of any kind, including anti-Semitic violence. And we will ban every single terrorist group that's operating here. We'll find and deport all of the IRG.
Yeah, USA just announced that all these like drug cartel, Trendaragua gang, like a bunch of these gangs are now terrorist criminal organizations. So we're gonna have a lot more power to take them out.
Currently 700 IRGC thugs who are in Canada today, operating with impunity, who are not citizens. They're spending the stolen money that they took from the Iranian people while they instigate divisions on our grounds in this country. They will be kicked out of...
This is news to me. Why do you guys have IRGC members in Canada? That's... What?
This country. We're going to put our country first. And finally, our approach is going to be that we are all Canadians. Every Canadian will be Canadian first. We can come from anywhere in the world. You can have any religious background you want. At the end of the day, we need a common identity,
Canada
a common
first.
loyalty that puts that flag above everything else.
Thank you. This will be the final question from Oxygen TV.
Good morning. We find that in your plan, you encourage investment and less spending. We find Mr. Mark Carney put in his slogan that invest more and spend less. We also encourage to remove all barriers for trade between provinces.
This guy Indian or Iranian? I can't tell.
The same thing Mr. Mark Carney included in his plan.
Arabic?
To remove barriers. So my question is, do you see any kind of imitations or copy and paste? And your comment, please. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I noticed that Mr. Carney uses a lot of slogans.
They're just copying, they just copy Pierre's slogans and then they won't do any of it, but they just want to sound good. Just like America, dude, it's crazy to watch.
He has been sloganeering his entire leadership campaign while I've been laying out real concrete policy plans. For example, his only two announcements...
Somebody just commented, national language for Canada equals English. Or how do you guys feel about
policy have been slogans. One, he wants to rename the carbon tax. And two, he wants to rename spending. The irony is that his record as part of the Trudeau government as the top economic advisor has been to spend more and invest less. Investment has crashed under the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, while spending has exploded. That is the...
Makes you wonder who's getting the kickback. Why would any politician want to do that instead of helping their own countrymen?
Actual record, it is the opposite of his slogan. We have, right now, today in Canada, 55 cents of investment per worker for every dollar the American worker gets. So this is the record after Carney-Trudeau. An American worker gets $28,000 of investment per year. A Canadian worker gets $15,000 of investment per year, both measured in American dollars.
Why?
What does that mean?
You guys have less people.
The American worker is getting more machines, more technology, bigger and better factories than his Canadian counterpart, so that even though the Canadian worker is better, he has worse tools. That is because investment has collapsed under the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. In the 5 years Carney has been Trudeau's advisor on economic matters, $500 billion of Canadian investment has left to the States more than has come back. And that means American workers are getting better off and our economy is being left in the dust. I will repeal the Carney-Trudeau no new pipelines
and
law.
I saw Pierre had an interview with some... There's this lady. He had an interview with some lady. Is it this one? Maybe we'll watch this one too. Pierre Poilievre outlines his plan to lower the deficit.
Take
Full
my business
interview.
Anywhere I want.
Ads, of course. Gotta suffer through the ads. Double ads, of course. You never have one ad anymore. Even if you skip the ad, still add another ad.
Joining me now is federal conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Who's that?
You've been talking about Mark Carney at recent events, saying that he accusing him of sneaky accounting, posting about him on social media. And you've also said that you would eliminate the deficit. When do you think you would...
Hey guys, just thanks for tuning in.
...be able to do that?
Well, it'll be in my platform, our fiscal plan to eliminate the Liberal deficit. It's funny that you ask about the deficit because remember,
the Liberal deficit.
10 years ago, the Liberals
Biden inflation, the Trudeau-flation.
Promised there would only be 3 deficits, 3 small deficits that would boost growth, create investment, and help the middle class.
What does he even mean by 3 small deficits? Wouldn't it just be one massive national deficit?
What's been the result? Well, the 3 deficits became 9 deficits.
Damn, son.
And then those 9 deficits added $700 billion of debt.
Oh my God.
And a lot of it.
Oh my God. Dude, because you guys just said you have either 1.3 trillion or 1.7, and this government added 800 billion of that.
Inflation, investment went down. Our growth is the worst in the G7. And as for that famous middle class that was going to do better, what has happened to them is that 80% of them pay more income tax than they did before the Liberals. And not a single middle-class family can afford a new home in any of our big cities. Now Mark Carney is repeating exactly the same promises that Justin Trudeau made.
Yeah, how do some people still vote for the same thing over and over again? Like, isn't it kind of obvious what they do?
3 small deficits that he says will be great for the middle class and growth. Well, the results will be exactly the same. It'll mean higher taxes, more inflation, bigger lineups at the food banks.
If Pierre doesn't win, your debt's going to be like $5 trillion.
Has been the result over the last 10 years of the Trudeau Liberals and over the last 5 years during which Carney has been Trudeau's economic advisor. So if you want an end to these Liberal deficits that have driven up the costs for middle class,
you gotta vote for the opposition
families, you have to vote for a real change with a common sense conservative government, and we're the ones that will deliver it.
So if we're talking about a timeline for you to get rid of the deficit, what would that be?
Well, the sooner the better. It's a Liberal deficit.
How many years does each prime minister get? Is it 4 years like America, or do you guys have a little more time?
So we have to get rid of Liberal waste. Under Trudeau-Carney Liberals, they have, for example, added 100,000 public servants. I'll be reducing the number of bureaucrats. They've doubled the budget.
Just like America. This is crazy. I can't believe, like, I hear everything Pierre's saying, and I'm like, it's pretty much what Trump's doing.
For corporate welfare, I will be cutting that. They doubled the budget for consultants. I'll be cutting that. I'll be cutting back on foreign aid to bring our money back home to Canada. And I'll impose a dollar-for-dollar law that requires my ministers find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending.
The latest polling shows that there is narrowing between the Liberals and the Conservatives. Why do you think that is, and do you think that has anything to do with...
I think your polls are slanted, and I think Pierre's up massively, just like America.
...with moving away from our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and moving toward a new leader?
Well, I think Mr. Carney's a very sneaky guy. He has been Trudeau's economic advisor for the last 5 years. And what has been the result? Housing costs have doubled. Yeah. Lineups at food banks have doubled.
Such a politician.
The national debt has
doubled. Look at that
doubled.
guy behind him.
Lineups at food banks have doubled.
Wow.
The national debt has doubled.
No way,
he has helped Justin Trudeau impose the carbon tax and pushed for that tax to go up even more. And now he plans a real sneaky trick. He's going to hide the carbon tax for 2 months right before the election so that it will not appear at the gas station. But after the election's over, he'll bring in a much bigger carbon tax. That's why the people keep calling him carbon tax Carney.
4 years is enough time to, do some shit.
And so if you want a change from the disastrous Trudeau, Carney, Liberal policies of the last 10 years, you have to elect common sense conservatives who will axe the taxes for everyone for good, who will slash bureaucracy, consultants, corporate welfare, foreign aid to bring down debt, taxes, and inflation, who will take GST off new homes and remove bureaucracy so that we can build houses people can afford. That's what real change is, and only common sense conservatives can.
GST, general sales tax?
Deliver it.
Let's talk about President Donald Trump. How would you handle him if, hypothetically speaking, you had a...
this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. We're just doing things that benefit us. And then if it helps Trump, it helps Trump. But these tariffs are so unjustified.
Phone call with him today. What would that conversation be like? What would you say to him?
Back off. One will never be the 51st state.
What the hell?
We will bear any burden and pay any price to protect our sovereignty. 2, we will respond to tariffs with retaliation, and I will use the dollars raised for those tariffs to save jobs and companies that are directly affected.
That's good. I want that to happen. I want you guys to have tariffs, and then you guys should have a sovereign wealth fund too with the money you get, and then the money in the sovereign wealth fund should be spent on infrastructure project like the East to West pipeline.
Affected by a trade war, but also cut taxes for workers and businesses so that we can bring home the investment Liberals have driven south of the border.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm an American, and like none of these plans piss me off as an American. To me, I'm like, if Canada is rich as fuck, like that's better for us.
We need to be strong here at home. Under Carney, he supported Trudeau's decision to block pipelines and resource jobs in Canada while he invested in American coal and moved his headquarters from Canada to...
No way. You guys don't have like a limit for how many terms you can run in a row? Here is 8 years, but 20 years, that's crazy. Because Putin's been in power for like 25 years. Well, I guess Angela Merkel she led for like 12 years.
To New York City.
But different coalitions for her. It's like different system.
City, just like Trump wanted. We don't need a prime minister who's going to put America's economy first, as Carney did. We need a prime minister who will put Canada first. That means passing...
Yeah, see, like that's what I complain about here. The governments before Trump, they put every other country first. Same with Canada, like Trudeau and Carney, because they're together. They just put every other country first and didn't give a shit about Canadians. Until now, when it matters and they have to win an election, they're like, let's say some stuff that's nice.
A big, bold, patriotic, bring it home tax cut on work, investment, home building, energy, making stuff in Canada. So we can bring back that investment and become a self-reliant country that rewards its companies for paying high wages, that produces its own resources and trades across Canada. That's what we're going to do when I'm Prime Minister, and that will make us strong to stare down Trump and any of the threats he puts forward.
For months, you've said that Canada is broken. Now, in the wake of the tariff threats, of the threat of becoming the 51st state, do you still think that Canada is...
This girl's voice is so nasally, but she's kind of cute, but her voice is nasally.
It's broken.
I think the Liberals have broken everything. They broke our housing market by doubling housing costs. They broke in the household budgets by raising carbon taxes and income taxes, with twice as many people lined up at food banks as there were before the Trudeau-Carney Liberals. They've broken our criminal justice system with catch and release that has allowed criminals to rampage.
We have that here too. What's the point of that catch and release? Like, you catch a criminal, who in their right mind would be like, yeah, let's just let him go. It's the best thing to do.
Through our streets, gun crime having doubled. They've broken families with the fentanyl crisis that they unleashed by legalizing hard drugs and leaving our borders open. We have more people dead of fentanyl after a decade of the Liberals than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. So they broke a lot of things, and it is patriotic to point out what is broken so that you can fix it. I mean, Liberals they're trying to gaslight Canadians into saying, if you point out any of the problems that they caused after 10 years in power, you're unpatriotic. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Patriotism is about having an honest conversation about the enormous damage the Liberals did to this country. And by the way, I won't take any lessons on patriotism from Mark Carney, who took jobs and money out of Canada to put them in the States, in China, and in the Middle East. I won't take any lessons from the Liberals on patriotism after they have been lowering our flag and putting down our history for the last 10 years. Conservatives
they were getting mad at patriotism back then, but now that Trump is here, patriotism is good again? What the hell?
Put Canada first, and that means fixing what Liberals broke.
We are a week away from our own election here in Ontario, where we choose our new premier, and it shows that
I thought your elections were next
Doug
week.
Ford, leader of the Progressive Conservatives, has a healthy lead. What's your working relationship?
Your elections are in October unless the government collapses earlier. I think I read that somewhere, but I'm not sure.
Like with him, and who do you endorse, if you endorse anyone?
Well, my working relationship is great with all the premiers. I'll work with anybody who will put Canada first. Anyone of any party who's prepared to work together, for example, to take taxes off home building. I'm going to go to all the premiers and say, look, I'm going to take the GST off new homes.
Yeah, imagine you take all the taxes and all the BS off of your home building over there. It would automatically make everything cheaper and houses would get built faster, which will, calm down the supply and demand. Plus, if you start deporting, it opens up a little more housing. All these things together.
Well, you take your provincial sales tax off those homes. That would save over $100,000 for a young family trying to buy a home. Then let's pressure the municipalities to cut their home building taxes. I'll say to them, look, let's knock down interprovincial trade barriers. I'll give you a bonus every time you remove a barrier to interprovincial trade so that we can start trading between Canadians rather than giving all our goods to the Americans. I'll work with anybody on my plan to bring in a blue seal, for example, a blue seal for immigrant doctors and nurses that is recognized across Canada, so that the doctors that are driving taxis in Canada can actually take a test, prove they're qualified, and get licensed anywhere in the country.
All right, let's read. So we don't directly vote for a prime minister. We vote for our members of parliament. There are elections in Ontario province in the coming week. Right on, right on. So it's kind of like us too. Could be March election, or sneaky Carney gets in and skips elections. What? If Carney gets whatever, not that he's elected, but he just gets installed, he can just call off elections like that?
It doesn't matter who Ontarians choose or other provinces choose as their premier. I'll always work with that person to put our country first.
Pierre, thank you so much for being here, for making the time for us. We appreciate you being here, and hopefully we'll see you again soon, and we'll be right back.
All right, let's go watch a Carney interview.
That feeling when you file Fed and state 100% free with TurboTax Free Edition.
It seems more and more likely it's pretty much Carney versus Pierre. That other lady doesn't seem like she's getting attention. Chrystia Freeland.
Mark Carney, nice to see you. Appreciate you being here.
This guy's so weird.
I'm going to start with the issue that is of most concern to Canadians right now, and that is, of course, the threat of tariffs by the president. You have said that you are leaving this to the real-time negotiations to the Prime Minister, but you could be faced with all of this in a matter of weeks. So what is your plan to take on the president's
Guys, I don't watch reality shows. I don't watch TV. I just keep up with politics in random countries.
Tariff threats specifically?
Well, so if I am selected as leader of the Liberal Party and therefore Prime Minister, I'll do a couple of things. One is I will pick up where we are at that point. There are negotiations ongoing. They go back and forth. As we all know, the President changes his mind or raises different issues day by day, and so the government has to deal with that. So I'll pick things up where they are. But one thing I want to emphasize, and what I can talk about and have been talking about, is one of the most important things we can do for Canada, but also for the negotiations, is to concentrate on what we can control. We can't control President Trump, but we can control what we do here at home.
It's not a bad answer. That's not a bad answer.
To reinforce our economy.
Be objective.
So that's middle-class tax cut, that's investing in
But again, like Pierre said, he says a lot of things that are good, but does he do it?
It's building new trade routes. It's doing all these things. It's having one Canadian economy instead of 13. And what I'm being more and more clear about is exactly how I would do that if I am selected.
And I will ask you some of those questions, but I still think that it would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs.
Well,
so why are you being so reticent to talk about it?
That's like the WEF Davos whole thing. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. It's crazy. It was a conspiracy a while ago, but now it's kind of clear. You could see it coming along everywhere. Even Los Angeles, there was conspiracies that, you know, this house is catching fire. They want to turn that into a smart city.
Good, because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises. I know what you do in the order you can control things. It is not a good idea to insert yourself in the middle of a negotiation, give conflicting...
Yeah, that's stupid. That's like, I heard the same thing in Germany. There's like the Green Party. It's just stupid. Like, he himself doesn't even follow by that, but somehow you guys have to be forced to live that way. It's like the people who complain about like global warming, but then they're famous and they're on airplanes, private jets every single week.
Signals.
Other candidates are doing that.
It's not a good idea to do that. Full stop.
Right.
And I'm in a position where I take my responsibilities or my potential responsibilities seriously. I'm in contact. I understand where the state of play is.
I wonder if Trump has ever mentioned this guy. I feel like he would absolutely hate him.
And as much as possible, we need to move in with very, very deliberately. Another point I would make is I'm not looking to negotiate. If I am selected as leader and therefore Prime Minister, my interlocutor, the person I would negotiate with, is the president.
Everything that goes green goes to shit. green everything is just a scam for we want to take your taxpayer dollars and we want to funnel into whatever the fuck we want. Take a little off the top, put it in our pockets.
Not with others.
That's what I hear when I hear green energy.
And so again, it's important at that stage. And last point, if I may, it's not appropriate for me at this point to have direct contact.
What's up, Orca? Welcome back.
You proposed that big polluters
you missed it. I already watched Pierre.
Consumers through a carbon credit market with the industrial pricing system. So
there's like a universal understanding, I think, in the chats that nobody likes Carney.
You get rid of the carbon tax for consumers, and you would put this in place instead. How would you ensure, though, that those costs aren't passed on to consumers?
So there's a couple of things.
Yes,
first, and just to be clear, in terms of removing the consumer carbon tax, that also means we're removing the carbon tax for small, medium-sized enterprises, for farms and others, basically everyone up to 50
again,
kilotons.
this guy is saying what he has to say, but Pierre is the only choice. He's the only one that's genuine.
It's the large polluters that pay. Now, those large polluters today, what they try to do is reduce their own emissions. If they don't get to certain levels, depending on the sector, they pay the producer carbon tax, the OPBS system as a whole, as you know. They have an option to buy carbon credits, which reduces the tax they pay. That market doesn't function very well. That carbon credit market doesn't function very well. So what we're actually doing here is improving the market, improving how it functions, adding additional credits, so additional options for those large polluters. They could buy these credits. This federal government will stand in between. And what's going to be new is a series of new incentives for households to reduce those emissions.
It still sounds to me, though, that there's an opportunity for companies to pass that on to consumers.
Well, just to be clear, them buying credits reduces their costs. It helps Canadians reduce their own emissions. Now, take a big step back and look at the overall producer carbon price. And let's take the example of the steel industry. So there's a carbon price on steel. To the extent to which that's paid, yes, that does show up in the cost, for example, of an automobile. Now, let's put this into proportions. If you look at a $25,000 or less car,
sometimes you have people on these networks that they have like a common sense or they have a lapse of judgment and they let the actual truth slip out.
If you replaced all the steel and it became green steel, so no carbon steel, which is an extreme version of what we're talking about here, it's less than $200 additional price.
Yeah, I
so
know.
It's something,
is this a video game?
That's
okay, but you acknowledge that the consumer would pay more at some point.
Well, the consumer is already paying more. Just to be clear, the consumer is already paying more. These are marginal amounts, and two things are happening. One, with our plan, is that it gives the companies more options. It gives households, Canadian households who are hard-pressed. Look, I was across the prairies. It's -30 in the prairies. It'd be good to be able to insulate your house better.
This guy.
To drive other efficiencies. So it helps that. And may I make one other
Carney
point?
dumbest
which is
moment.
One of the things we have to be able to do as Canada is we have to get our companies
Carney's
more competitive.
dumbest moments. Let's go. "18-year-old Justin Trudeau."
The eldest son of former Prime Minister Pierre.
The oldest son of Castro, Justin
Trudeau was sounding a bit like his father today. 18-year-old Justin Trudeau is now a student at a community college in Montreal.
That's the only problem. Watch it on Monday and English on Tuesday. I'll watch it on Tuesday 100,000 million billion %. Debates are the fucking funniest.
One of many Quebec colleges gearing up for a referendum.
Okay, this is gonna be funny. The thumbnail to this video I'm about to watch is Justin Trudeau in blackface.
Play for an ultra.
Racing for an ultra. Top 10 cringiest Justin Trudeau moments.
Can you say definitively that you haven't worn blackface since 2001?
There's like a black lady back there too.
Very forthright with Canadians.
Weasel it out, pal.
On this issue, and I will continue to be.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're
Watch Mojo.
We're counting down our picks for the times that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau didn't quite make us want to stand on guard for thee.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily.
Oh. Are you serious? Dude, what? She's asking like a virtue signaling warm question. He's like, well, we actually like to say people kind here in Canada. None of the people here agree with it, but B, Justin Trudeau, Castro said I agree with it.
Necessarily mankind.
Number 10, speaking moistly.
Yeah, Carney talks too much like a business guy sometimes, and it's really boring. Like, if you notice, like Trump, Poilievre, like you need something special about you in politics. Even Trudeau has it in a weird way. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
If people want to wear a mask, that is okay. It protects others more than it protects you because it prevents you from breathing or
How about COVID? How long ago was that? Such a scam.
Speaking moistly on them.
Moistly?
What a terrible image.
Look, you can't argue that Prime Minister Trudeau had good intentions behind this now iconic gaffe. Speaking to the press on April 7th, 2020, shortly into the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, Trudeau uttered a turn of phrase that instantly became the stuff of Canadian pop culture legend.
I'm like, oh, I've been there when you're trying to find the word, and then you know the wrong one's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
There's nothing else going to replace it, so you just got to...
That's what Justin was thinking about. He was thinking of something moist.
Go with what's on deck.
And one of the worst words in the English language is coming out of my mouth, and he knew it.
Hashtag speaking moistly. I'm guessing that trended.
Listing ways that Canadians could keep themselves safe from the coronavirus.
Carney says he identifies as European. Dude, that doesn't make sense. Like, I heard that too. One of you guys were saying the other day that Carney was like working for the Bank of England or something, the World Economic Forum. He's like, dude, what business does this guy have in Canada? And then you look at Pierre on the other side, literally grew up in Canada, made his way through the ranks. He served multiple positions under the one that was before Justin. So it's like, I don't know. You guys in here are smart, but how are some of the Canadians that are like, yeah, you know, Carney's a good choice. Fuck it. We'll give him a try.
The Prime Minister suggested practicing social distancing, regularly washing one's hands, and avoiding, quote, speaking moistly. Even Trudeau himself seemed aghast at his choice of words, and commentators and media personalities
he's kind of like your guys' George Soros.
Alike had some fun with his remarks during a particularly dark time. Trudeau was even remixed by Edmonton-based producer Brock Tyler, leading to a viral sensation.
Prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly.
Number 9, the 20-second
pause.
Speaking
moist to prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly.
Number 9, the 20-second pause.
Hi, Prime Minister Tom.
Look at this guy. I'm telling you, he's changed so much over the years. It's like he does something bad and then he wants to change his image to like get away from it. And he goes back.
You've been reluctant to comment on the words and actions of the U.S. president, but we do have Donald Trump now calling for military action against protesters. We saw protesters tear gas yesterday to make way for a presidential photo op. I'd like to ask you what you think about that, and if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
The 2020 murder of George Floyd, an unarmed black man, by police officer.
Do you guys think Justin Trudeau is on drugs, like cocaine or weed? Like, does he do any of that? Sometimes he looks high to me, but I can't put my finger on it.
In Minneapolis ignited a wave of tension, outrage,
Pierre's former boss appointed Carney to governor of the Bank of Canada. This is getting weird, man. Pierre's former boss. So is Pierre one of them too?
Of global reactions.
Bugbird?
Within the United States, Floyd's killing provoked a summer's worth of protests that sometimes grew violent and destructive.
I don't think Bugbird's a liberal.
Then President Donald J. Trump, when asked for his thoughts on the protests, suggested that the military be deployed to quell them.
Crickets.
Trudeau, who'd already garnered a reputation for hemming and hawing, struggled to articulate a response to a question about Trump's suggestion. For 21 long,
20 seconds,
uncomfortable seconds, Trudeau seemed to be booting up an answer.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Stephen Harper. Yeah, I heard Pierre just was in politics his entire life, pretty much.
It wouldn't come.
And then before he was in politics, he was doing like, interning for some business.
By the time he finally spoke,
to look up his past.
reply was seen as evasive and underwhelming.
We all watch in horror and consternation what's going on in the United States.
All right.
It is a time to pull people together, but it is a time to...
I heard you guys have he built a cricket plant, and it didn't do well because no one wants to eat crickets.
Listen. It is a time
to
to
learn. Crickets are a good source of protein.
What injustices continue despite progress.
Number 8, forgetting Alberta.
We may live in British Columbia, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nunavut, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick.
This guy's face is so weird all the time. He's like,
even despite numerous concessions to them during his tenure as Prime Minister, Trudeau was largely seen as an enemy of the Canadian oil and gas sector. This made him particularly unpopular in western provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan. Trudeau was viewed as having little sympathy for workers whose jobs were threatened by measures to focus on renewable energy.
But we embrace that diversity while knowing in our hearts that we
don't actually say mothers, we say people. Okay.
We are all Canadians.
As such, Trudeau's 2017 Canada Day address...
No way. They actually handed out bug bars? I would eat it just because I'm interested in what a cricket would taste like, but
which also
I don't want it permanently.
Marked Canada's 150th anniversary, proved wince-worthy when he forgot to mention Alberta while reading off the names of Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories. Trudeau apologized for the slip-up on Twitter, now X, saying, quote, "Got too excited."
I'm telling you, he was a little high again.
Somewhere over the Rockies. Sorry, Alberta.
Oh,
I love you.
Justin.
Happy Canada Day.
Except for you, Alberta.
Two questions.
Of course they're gonna make jokes.
One,
good morning, British Columbia.
Is it an honest mistake? Because he read them out of order. You know, he may have forgotten, but I also noticed watching all of the ceremonies on Saturday that he had a teleprompter. So
you did.
Could it have been the person who wrote the script, if it was prompted, that they forgot to write Alberta into a script?
Number 7.
Damn,
because
they did him
2015.
dirty.
It's an incredible...
Trudeau's wife even had commercial for something to make PMS... What? What? Dude. Listen, I can handle the crickets, but make your PMS blood... No, thank you. That is psychotic. They need to go to jail now, I believe. I wasn't that interested before, but now that I found this out, I hope they actually stole money so they can get arrested. That's crazy.
Incredible pleasure for me to be here today before you to present to Canada.
Is Justin Trudeau's wife an actual woman, or is it like a Brigitte?
A cabinet that looks like Canada.
This Trudeau moment may have sounded good at the time, but has since come to stand as a symbol of the all-talk, no-action critiques that hounded him into the tail end of his decade-long ministership. As noted by the British newspaper The Telegraph at the time in November 2015, quote, "He's picked 15 men and 15 women, the first gender-balanced ministerial team in the country's history."
Wow.
Good job. You did a great job, Justin. You made it equally balanced. Better woman. Oh my God.
When in life is everything ever equally balanced like that? If nature doesn't even do that, why do you think you have to do that?
I understand one of the priorities for you was to have a cabinet that was gender balanced.
Hey, but did you have a furry in there?
Why was that so important to you?
Because it's 2015.
When asked why this was important to...
So Justin's wife was a woman, but divorced his ass because he cares more about his career than his own family. Yeah, makes sense. Because once he gets out of politics, what's going to happen? They're going to uncover what he did.
To him, Trudeau simply responded,
which is already
because it's
happening.
2015. While it's hard to argue against greater gender parity in politics, Trudeau's quote now comes across as glib, performative, and even arrogant, especially when one considers the systemic change that failed to materialize over the course of his tenure.
Canadians elect...
Yeah, Ilona, of course he wanted to cover that up. Why would they make that accessible to you? Only if you search you can find that.
Extraordinary members of parliament from across the country.
You know, if Pierre got divorced, it would be all over the news. They would have like newspapers. They would have like printouts of his face and her face and a broken heart in the middle.
And I am glad to have been able to highlight a few of them in this cabinet here with me today.
Number 6, his Swiftie moment. Indeed. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour was undeniably an unprecedented cultural phenomenon, becoming both the highest-grossing tour of all time and the first to gross over $1 billion. So with that in mind, it was more than a little understandable that Canadian Swifties were shattered when Swift initially announced her tour dates and that the true North...
Listen, Taylor, I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best albums of all time.
Strong and Free was nowhere to be found.
Taylor Swift Canadian?
Eventually, Swift announced a 6-night residency at Toronto's Rogers Centre and a 3-night stint at BC Place in Vancouver. Trudeau didn't go unrecognized for his efforts. He was caught dancing his heart out at Swift's penultimate Toronto show.
Oh my god, dude. This guy is such a feminine, weird... Oh my god, I can't get over it. It's just something about him. It's just so strange. True. You know those conspiracies when they say like people are lizards? Not that he's a lizard, but he's just weird.
He is all of our dorky dads.
Oh, actually,
Number 5.
If he was with his daughter or something, I retract that statement.
His infamous party trick. Thinking about inviting Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to your next house party?
Peter Pan.
After seeing this resurfaced interview clip, you may want to reconsider, or not. Interviewed by La Presse, a French-language Montreal newspaper...
Look at his mustache, dude. I'm telling you, he changed so much, his look. He looks like a French painter. He's like, oui, I drink my wine on the weekends, and... I like to paint my backyard.
Reveals how he connects with others.
I paint my backyard with good picture, good sunset.
Others at social events. Without hesitation, the then future Prime Minister demonstrates the best way to reach across the aisle, which is, of course, to toss yourself down a flight of stairs as a gag.
Fires. Politicians never care about fires. They just come after, like our politicians here in LA.
Trying this out at home, such tumbling is best left to professionals. We wonder whether the Prime Minister could offer lessons once he's out of office. Number 4, Bohemian Rhapsody.
He was for sure in drama class when he was in high school.
For some reason,
cheerleading.
It seems as though Canadian Prime Ministers are fixated on performing live music. For example, this eyebrow-raising clip of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper performing Sweet Child...
That's your favorite. You guys all love this guy. Stephen Harper, the good old days. The golden age of Canada.
Of Mine by Guns N' Roses at the Conservative Party's Christmas celebration in 2014. Head of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Joined by a cavalcade of Canadian musicians in a British hotel lobby, Trudeau faced criticism for a perceived lack of decorum. However, others felt differently. Carleton University political science professor Jonathan Malloy said, quote, "The Prime Minister need not be in sackcloth and ashes for 10 days to mourn the Queen," end quote. Number 3, his India trip.
The trip was...
I heard he did blackface and India face.
Supposed to strengthen ties, but it was, by all accounts, a disaster. Now, that's just not me saying that. A Washington Post headline actually read, "Trudeau's India trip is a total disaster." Critics allege that the trip
happened?
was more of an extended vacation since Trudeau met with...
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, Orca. I learned that yesterday when Pierre called him out in the house. I think it's House of Commons, Parliament, something like that. And he's like, something about, you retired or got out of teaching school quite abruptly. What happened?
With almost no Indian government officials, but he did find
PDF files.
Time to take a few pictures.
What was proposed as an 8-day diplomatic mission to highlight the strong ties between Canada and India ended as a complete public relations nightmare for the Canadian government. Oh, and for Prime Minister Trudeau.
Some people felt he overdid it on the traditional Indian dress, and by some people, I mean everyone. For example, this is how Stephen Harper and Jean Chrétien dressed when they visited India. Justin, he went for a more on-the-nose approach.
Not only did the two world powers clash over the Prime Minister's itinerary, as well as the unusual length of his stay in India, but Trudeau's dancing once again proved to be a sore point. Clips of Trudeau performing Bhangra, a popular style of Indian folk dancing, were subject to online jeers and mocking, with some accusing him of cultural appropriation. Hey, at least he seems really eager.
At least he didn't do any embarrassing dancing. At this point, you'd think it couldn't get any worse. Well, you'd be wrong. It was revealed that a Liberal MP had invited a convicted attempted murderer to a reception in India.
Number 2, people kind.
Unfortunately, in Canada, our volunteering as a charitable religious organization is extremely difficult. Extremely.
I have a question for you guys real quick. So here in America, for me, since Trump got elected, it just feels like, since it's something so different, I'm like, this is a historical time. That's why, like, I've been streaming a lot of his stuff too. I'm wondering if you guys feel the same in Canada. Like, things have been kind of similar for a long time, and this is your guys' chance to change the history and the future of Canada.
2018 Town Hall saw the Prime Minister taking a long, convoluted question from an attendee who didn't know she was making history when she used the word mankind. Trudeau responded by seemingly correcting her, suggesting that
we like to say people kind here.
People kind was more inclusive.
It can also be changed because maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go. Exactly.
Oh yeah, there we go.
The subsequent
There we go. Oh, good job, woman.
Online response saw the Liberal Party leader torn to shreds for what sounded like virtue signaling and mansplaining. Daniel Dale, Washington correspondent for the Toronto Star newspaper, argued that the critiques were in bad faith and that, quote, he was lightly ribbing a woman who was rambling about the power of women, God the Mother, and how the world needs womanly love.
That's why, in actuality, we cannot do free volunteering to help our neighbors in need as we truly desire. So that's why we came here today to ask you to also look into the policies that religious charitable organizations have in our legislation.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications.
Number 1, blackface scandals.
When Justin Trudeau next faces reporters and Canadian voters, the whole country will likely be leaning in. There is a major new development this hour as the Liberal
This lady's cheek looks
leader
fat on the right side.
and his advisors are deciding the next move.
It looks swollen. It looks like Justin punched her or something.
Another image of Trudeau wearing what appears to be blackface. It is the 4th similar image now to have come to light in the past 24 hours.
Dude. Even if you don't follow Canadian politics, chances are you still somehow heard about this unbelievably...
Dude, that's not even blackface. That's like oil face right there. That's like I dipped my face into the oil that came out of my car.
Embarrassing, entirely avoidable scandal on Justin Trudeau's part. September 2019 found Trudeau requesting then-Governor-General Julie Baez to dissolve Parliament and to thus trigger a federal election. It didn't take long for the Prime Minister's most damning scandal to date to come to light.
Last night, in speaking to
so
reporters,
dumb.
Trudeau was asked directly whether there were any other incidents. He'd already apologized for one when he was a high school teacher. Under questioning from reporters, though, notably our David Cochrane, he revealed a second when he was a high school student. But when he was asked if there were
Oh, he was
any
in high
other
school.
incidents of his wearing black or brown face, Trudeau did not directly say.
Shortly after the election was called, pictures appeared online and in Time magazine of Trudeau donning blackface and brownface.
Oh my
Yes,
god, he didn't even do it once. He did it multiple times. Multiple times, dude. It's funny because if you see his hand, he even painted his hand.
that's more than once. While the scandal didn't seem to affect the Liberals' performance in that election, Trudeau's reputation as a multicultural
I'm not even mad at this. It's more funny than anything. He's got his brothers next to him. He's like, yeah, on one of them. Are you aware of the hundreds of RCMP cars who are sitting away to junk yard about to get turned into scrap metal? No, I don't know what RCMP cars are. Nah, don't feel bad. This is literally nothing. It's just a joke. He's wearing a costume, you know. I would not hold it against him. I would be more mad at his policies than him doing a joke like this for Halloween, you know. Even these guys are happy. They don't care.
took a significant, lasting hit.
Justin Trudeau, in brown and blackface, we've seen a number of examples. Do you consider it to be racist?
Yeah, it's racist beyond any doubt.
Dude, that's
you know,
not really
ask
racist,
people of
though.
color
It's just
growing up
funny.
across this country, and they'll share with you why it's offensive. Pulling from my own personal experience as a Sikh Punjabi kid growing up in Brampton, you know, we used to see incidents.
This is part of the whole like liberal like I consider this wokeism when somebody makes a little joke or something that's a little edgy and this dude's like, well, I'm a young Punjabi, you know, I was bullied one time like 20 years ago. Shut up, bro. You're a man. You're balding. Grow up a little. It's a joke.
Folks knocking turbans off.
Which Trudeau moment had you watching through your
I can't
fingers?
believe I just defended Justin Trudeau. Can you believe that?
Are there any we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.
And for Canadians, it's been a great comfort that no matter how bad 2024 got, we could always say,
Loyal
you know
Canadian-
what? At least
so
we're not
police cars.
Justin Trudeau.
You guys have police cars rotting away. All right, I think I'm gonna call it there. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. We got through a good amount of videos. Dude, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll literally be back tomorrow. I'm gonna stream again later, but it's not gonna be Canada stuff. I did US politics this morning. I did Canada now, and then later we'll see. I'll either do a police pursuit or something from Europe, like Germany, because the German elections are coming up soon too. But appreciate you guys stopping by. Thanks Orca, Michelle, Iona, everybody else. Like and sub. If you guys have any recommendations for what you guys want me to watch and react to as an American, just let me know in the comments. Let me know in here. I'll for sure do it as long as YouTube allows me. See ya.